We're going to talk about special teams tonight. We got to talk about the first half and the second half. Patrick, good evening. For the life of me, I don't know how Minnesota won this game.
Yeah, Chuck, it's disappointing. It's good to have you on tonight. I was hoping for a better outcome, and man, it started out great, right? You looked at Caleb Williams that first drive. We're like, all right, this is the Ben Johnson era. We got it going. And I got excited. The crowd got excited, Chuck. That was pretty impressive. I haven't heard Soldier Field that loud in a while, and it's unfortunate the outcome is what it is today. But I hate to say it, but it feels like the same old Bears. And I was not hoping for an outcome like this where, it just kind of rips your heart out. And that's what I felt like during this game, that it felt like you were in control. You're going against a rookie quarterback. He throws a pick six. Everything seemed like it was going its way. Then the second half happened, and it just seemed like the same old Bears, and just the word for me, Chuck, is disappointed. I'm very, very disappointed in this outcome and the way the Bears played in the second half.
Yeah. Well, let's break down, number one, what did you like about the Bears in the first half?
Well, just Caleb, the play calls, they looked under control. The snap count got the offensive line a couple times, but it also helped them. And it just looked efficient. The first 15 or 20 plays or whatever he's scripting now looked like they were ready to go, and Caleb looked very comfortable. He took what he could get in front of him. He had the check downs. That's what he was talking about. Take the check downs, take what you're going to give you, and then be Superman when you need to be. And he did that. Some of his scrambles and run were pretty spectacular. That throw to Rome Odunze was spectacular. That was Supermanish. But overall, it seemed like he let the game come to him, and then just things got out of control in the second half.
All right, let's talk about the second half. Where were the breakdowns?
Oh, man, just defensively, they couldn't stop the run. I wrote my notes here as they can't stop the run, they can't stop the run, they can't stop the run. And then J.J. McCarthy and Kevin O'Connell just put together a good game plan. I think J.J. calmed down. I think in the first half he looked like a rookie, and I thought the way he played in the first half, I was hoping it would carry on to the second half, and it didn't. He settled in there, had some nice scrambles and some nice throws. Obviously, when you have Justin Jefferson on your side, it's going to help you a lot. But he looked like he just settled down, Chuck. That's probably the biggest thing that I noticed. And then their running game was there as well.
Yeah, Caleb Williams goes 21 to 35 for 211 yards with one touchdown, and he got sacked a couple of times. J.J. McCarthy, the former Chicago high school star before he went to IMG, McCarthy looked rattled in the first half without any doubt, but then he came on strong in the final two quarters. He went 13 of 20, 143, a couple of TDs and one pick, and he got sacked three times. I'll tell you what, having as a fan and somebody covering the National Football League as long as I have, when I saw the first half, I thought, you know what, this is a typical script of a rookie quarterback with all the pressure in the world in his hometown, in his NFL debut, and it was a deer in the headlights. And then out of nowhere, it looked like this kid was a seasoned pro.
Yeah, he did. He just, there's a reason why he was a first rounder. There's a reason why Harbaugh raved about him in Michigan. He seemed like he cleaned it up and just played a lot better. I was hoping he wouldn't. But it looks like we got some good quarterbacks all across this division. It looks like it's going to continue to be a very competitive division.
All right, let's welcome Olin Kreutz, a great star for the Bears back in the day, the NFL's 2000 All-Decade team. And, of course, he has a spot in my heart because he played for the great Jim Lambright. I'm from Bellevue, Washington. And go Huskies, mush Huskies, all that good stuff, Olin. And let's talk about this game. What in the world happened?
Yeah, it's a good question. First of all, love whenever there's a Jim Lambright mention. Good coach, good man. My coach at Washington. Interesting game to watch. The first thing I thought, Pat and Chuck, was this. We knew the Bears had a long way to go when we watched them last year, right? When we watched them finish the year and the way they played last year, and it could be time for some people at Hallis Hall to start saying, "Look, maybe we were part of the problem." Right? When you watch this film, when you try to get things fixed, when you're trying to move the franchise, the Chicago Bears in the right direction, maybe it wasn't just all the coaching staff. They were a part of the problem, no doubt. But Pat, if you watched that film last year, you knew the players that were playing were a part of the problem. Ben Johnson has a big job with the Chicago Bears to get the Chicago Bears, to get the organization, to get everybody moving in a winning direction. But the first thing everyone has to do is take a good look at themselves and say, man, what do I have to do to get better? Because all I heard all I heard all off season, all I heard all camp was finally we have a coach who gives us the details, who holds us responsible, who tells us exactly what to do and exactly what we need to do to be a good football team. And Pat, I'm not saying that Ben Johnson is not that guy. This is his first game in Chicago. What I'm saying is their problems are a lot bigger than what we heard them say all offseason. And it's time for people to take a little more responsibility for getting this franchise moving in the right direction.
Olin, it's kind of frustrating to hear you say that, man, because it's true. It's just, they preach that everything's going to be fixed, but like I said in the opening there, it felt like the same old Bears. And it goes back to the way it is at Haugh. And I hopefully we don't do pre and post game shows doing the repeat we've done for the last 5 or 6 years. But that game unfortunately seemed that way. But Olin, to me, when they came out the way they did, and Ben Johnson had his scripted plays, and Caleb the way he was playing, and then to hear that crowd, that I was like, oh my gosh, maybe they did turn the corner. But then all of a sudden they flipped it again, and it just went bad.
And think about this late
Chuck,
only in the first half. I mean, Minnesota gets a 59-yard field goal to close out the first half. And when you start dissecting a play here and a play there, that was huge.
Really big. And the fact that we only had 10 points, right? With everything we did on offense, with the way we looked like we dominated the first half. Even if they don't get that field goal, Chuck, it's still only 10-3. Right, we're still looking for those points under those rocks, Pat, like you talked about in the pregame. And there's a lot to go over and dissect over the way the guys played and play calling and the way that the Chicago Bears and who has to get better and the technique and the play calling and some of the penalty calls and things of that nature. But the thing I want to talk about first and foremost, Chuck and Pat, is the thing I worried about all offseason, is I never heard anybody in there say yes. Eberflus is gone. Yes, Waldron is gone. That's all, that's correct. But I need to get better. I need to play better football, man. I need to move on. All we heard about is how intense, how tough all the practices were, and how we're doing everything the right way. What we found out tonight is what we thought when you turned all 16 or 17 of their games on last year. There are bigger problems at Haugh than just moving on from the head coach. Now, listen, Pat, this is just getting started, man. But the size of the job that Ben Johnson had is a lot bigger than most people thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, he's like you talked about it in the pregame. We talked about the sod in the pregame. You need a man that's taken over the Bears that is the head coach that runs the entire building to every little detail. You think about Bill Belichick, right? That man ran the Patriots the way he wanted to get it done, and it worked out for him. But yeah, I just hope we're not going back to that, Olin. Again, I'm going to bring it up. I hope we're not going back to that to what it was last year, where the finger pointing's going on between players, where they need to be pointing themselves, right? When you talk about pointing the thumbs at yourself, and you want to hear what can I do better, you don't hear that. You're right. It would be interesting to have somebody like you in the locker room tell guys to shut up and say, hey man, let's just talk about yourself. Talk about your own play. Don't talk about the coaches. Don't talk about that. What can you do better? And those are great points, man.
So let's get it out of the way, gentlemen. Patrick, we're going to start with you. Analyze Caleb Williams' performance, and then we'll go to Oli for his remarks.
Yeah, at the beginning, I liked what I saw. He was running the offense. He was taking what was there. He was hitting the checkdowns. He was being efficient. He was being accurate. And then that throw to Rome, I'm like, all right, there's Superman. I believe that was third down. That throw to Rome on the sideline was amazing. And then he started getting erratic. He missed DJ on that fourth down, the 4th and 2 on the 24-yard line. Airmailed Cole Kmet over the middle of the field. And those are plays that, Troy Aikman highlighted and said they're wide open. You've got to make those. And if you're the number 1 pick, first-round pick, whatever you are, a quarterback in the NFL, you've got to make those plays. So overall, I thought it was up and down. I wanted to see more consistency. But early, I liked what I saw. And then it just became kind of what we saw last year of Caleb, some of the Superman plays and some of the missed plays. But I thought overall in the pocket, he looked a little bit better. He knew how to get out and scramble real well. I think he only took 2 sacks, the 1 sack on the sideline, which was, kind of his fault, stepping out of bounds and throwing it away. But as far as the sacks, I thought he looked better. But to me, it was a little bit too much of up and down. I was hoping to see a big step.
Olin?
Yeah, the Bears had, a bunch of pre-snap penalties, which as an offensive lineman, obviously they bear a lot of that responsibility with the false starts. But it makes me wonder, Pat and Chuck, how consistent his snap count is, right? How on rhythm he is, and how come it seemed like the offensive line was either confused or not on rhythm with him. So a lot of times that is both the offensive line and the quarterback, and they have to get that right. But I thought, like Pat is mentioning, I mean, we saw everything that we knew coming out from the draft from Caleb Williams. We saw the arm talent. Pat mentions the throw to Rome Odunze, which is absolutely amazing, right? To throw on the run, that ball to the sideline. It's the things he does, those kind of throws. And then his feet to get him out of trouble. Thought he was in a lot more trouble tonight than I thought he would be. We talked about in the pregame all the money that the Vikings have put into their defensive line. I think Hargrave really showed up tonight. He put some pressure on him. Jonathan Allen pushed the pocket a couple of times. Van Ginkel and Grenard. But as far as this Caleb overall, just kind of like Pat is saying, you're hopeful after the first and second quarter. It looks like he's taking a step. Looks like Ben Johnson's got him comfortable finding the checkdowns. But I think later in the game, I think Flores went to a little bit of a cover two where the cornerbacks were up on the checkdowns, and he made Caleb throw the ball down the field a little more. And we saw the accuracy problems that Pat brought up that we were seeing some of last year, and it just never seemed comfortable. I thought Troy Aikman did a really nice job pointing out a few times early in the game that he thought Ben Johnson had designed up a few shots down the field, and Caleb decided to take the check down, which at that point in the game is not a huge deal, right? But it ends up biting you later when you do lose the game. So it's hard to have a good feeling about anybody on the Chicago Bears after what we just watched. I'd be lying if I didn't say, well, I thought he took a step. How much of a step I thought he took, how much he improved in Ben Johnson's office, how much he looked comfortable. Man, in the second half, I can't really say much, right? I really saw much of anything that he did when Flores adjusted to what Ben Johnson was trying to do with the Bears offense. And then we couldn't get the running game going, which didn't help him at all.
You're listening to the voices of two outstanding players when they performed at Soldier Field in the National Football League. Olin Kreutz along with Patrick Mannelly. This Chuck Swirsky. Adam Stasinski is getting it done as our producer tonight. Our Bears postgame coverage right here on 670 The Score, presented by TimberTech Decking and Railing and Arturo Tire. And again, we're going to go to the phone lines at 312-644-6767. Let's go live right now to St. Joe, Michigan with Christian. Christian, welcome to The Score. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. How are we doing tonight? Obviously a tough loss. Really hard to stomach kind of the staleness that we've seen in years past from a team that we had high expectations to kind of have this high-octane offense. Really, I think one of the things outside of the game that flashed to me, and I'm sure you guys can talk about this more, is going into week one, kind of having guys pop up last minute on the injury report, Kyler Gordon, TJ Edwards, and kind of the lack of depth that was good in the first half, but was really stretched thin as we continued on in the game, and how it kind of seemed as though going into week one, we could or should have been a little bit more prepared, getting guys or having guys ready for a situation like tonight. But appreciate the call.
All right, Christian, thanks so much. Let's get some remarks now. Patrick and Olin, your thoughts on what Christian just said.
Olin,
I think,
take it.
Go ahead, Pat.
Take it, Olin.
Go ahead.
Take it.
No, I was just going to say that I think that, whenever there's soft tissue injuries, you do worry about that a little bit, right, with the hamstring. I think TJ Edwards had a hamstring, and also Kyler Gordon. But, that is also, Christian makes a great point that they do have three of their top starters out on defense, right? That caught up to them, I thought, at the end of the game. As the game wore on, I thought it kind of wore on them. I mean, obviously, Wright makes a great play on that pick six that they scores a touchdown on the all-out blitz, sits on the Jefferson route, drives on it, picks it off, makes a great play. I mean, I was hoping right there, Pat, like you, the game was sewed up. But Christian's point is, you do worry about, and obviously Jalen Johnson, he was hurt before camp, and you're worried about that, and we want him back. He's an all-pro cornerback. He's a hell of a football player. I thought that they would keep him out tonight. But as far as Tyler Gordon, TJ Edwards, those are three of their best players, Pat, on the sideline against the Minnesota Vikings in week one, which to Christian's point, you don't want to see, right? And that's what we're talking about with Ben Johnson. We say, okay, we talked about the grass earlier, right? Management. Now you're managing. Now you're managing a football team. You're not just calling plays anymore, right? So now you're managing the fact that, okay, guys, what's going on with our guys? Why are we pulling hamstrings? You're checking in with the strength staff. You're checking in with the trainers. You're checking when I think they have a guy they call him like master of ceremony there for the strength staff. I don't know what they call him, but they have a lot of people there, nutritionists and stuff that they have to, be accountable for keeping these guys on the field, keeping them healthy, keeping them playing.
Yeah, that scares me about the soft tissue injuries. That's what I was going to talk about. It's because that indicts the strength staff, that indicts the training staff, and then your goal is to get through training camp healthy, and they didn't do that. They had a couple things pop up right before the game, which is discouraging. But the tale of two games there, right? The first half and second half, I was like, all right, they're missing three starters like you're talking about on defense, but they're dominating a rookie quarterback. That's what they should do. And then the next thing, the second half happens. They adjust. J.J. McCarthy plays better. And then the defense kind of looked what you thought it would kind of look like against an experienced quarterback missing three starters. But it's discouraging to see about these soft tissue injuries. But just tale of two halves and just same old Bears, man. It's aggravating to see that happen in the second half.